All right, I want to welcome you all to the Casa Grande Dispatch General Election Forum. Tonight we're going to hear from candidates in Congressional District 1 and 2 candidates from the High School District Board. The format tonight, each candidate will get the same question. They'll both answer 1-minute answers. If need be, there'll be a rebuttal. And closing statements at the end will be 2 minutes. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the candidates. We have Congresswoman Ann Kirkpatrick. And Arizona House Speaker Andy Tobin. Now I'm going to turn it over to Donovan Kramer, who's going to read the questions.
Thank you, Brian. My son, Brian Kramer, has been our circulation director here, but last week he went up and became publisher of the White Mountain Independent, so we're glad that he could come down here and join us tonight. The first question, we'll start first with Congresswoman Ann Kirkpatrick, and then we'll switch back and forth on who goes first. What is your view of policy for dealing with the Islamic State?
This is a critical, serious global threat, and I believe that we should have intervened earlier. I support the airstrikes, and we've got to stop them in their tracks. We're fighting this battle in Syria and in Iraq. It is a coalition of countries who've joined us because they realize how absolutely serious this is. And make no doubt about it, I am committed to stopping ISIL in their tracks and doing whatever it takes to do that.
Thank you. I will share with you that when you go to war, you better go to war to win it. And to play games and not have a strategy or draw lines in the sand that mean nothing is very disheartening. It is certainly disheartening for those families who are serving overseas even today. And God bless them, they're over. What other country does this? America is over there in the middle of an Ebola crisis, building hospitals. I am so grateful, as I know you are, for this, but we have to have leadership. We have to have people who, it's not just a line of sand. It used to be when America said something, it meant something. Our enemies do not fear us any longer. That is part of the problem. America has reduced our military to a point where we're not sure that we can even defend our friends. Israel is in trouble. Israel is nervous about American leadership. I can tell you this, that border security, I'm sorry, thank you. Thank you.
Question 2 will go first to Mr. Tobin. What should be done or is being done to improve the national economy?
Well, thank you for that. I think that a lot of things are being done to hurt the national economy, and not very many are being done to make it better. I believe that our corporate tax rate is so high that we continue to chase businesses away from our country. It's time to repatriate those dollars and bring those companies back here. And I think that that is where America is struggling. We have so many dollars that have gone overseas because of our tax rates. It is hurting job growth. Here in Arizona, what we did here was the first thing is we decided, let's just take a pause on regulation. That could be some medicine that I think Washington, D.C. could learn from. Because what we have is businesses so concerned that the next EPA or the next OSHA regulation might even put them out of business, as it's done in rural Arizona. It really cramps our businesses' concerns about going forward and adding capital and growing. More often, they're worried about whether they're going to be around with rates on water or rates on energy. So I think the answer at the end of the day is less Washington.
I serve on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, And last year we did a major bipartisan bill that would improve our water resources and our water infrastructure across this country. So it includes money for our ports, but it also includes money very close to home here that will help our economy. We have an area very close by that's in a floodplain, the lower Santa Cruz River, and you may have heard about this flood project. It's affecting businesses in this area. We were able to work with the Army Corps of Engineers to actually get money to move ahead with that study. It's going to make a big difference to the tribes in this area and also to the communities to take them out of a floodplain, and they won't have to pay that very expensive insurance. But just today we heard that under that bill, Arizona is getting $25 million, and that is going to be hundreds of good paying jobs in this area. So that's an example of something that's helping our country, but also helping us locally.
And Mr. Kirkpatrick, first to you then. Is the United States dealing effectively with Russia?
Foreign policy is such a serious issue in this country, and we need to do more in terms of diplomacy. But I recently, this year, took a visit to our military bases. I was in Georgia, I was in Turkey, I was in the Middle East, I went back to Afghanistan. Our military is doing a great job, and we need to make sure that they have the funding and the resources to keep us safe and to keep themselves safe, but they are doing a remarkable job in that area. And Russia is right next to Georgia, and in talking with folks there, they are seriously concerned about what's going on. So it's something we have to pay attention to as a country, and it's something that we have to pay attention to as citizens of Arizona. We've got some critical Air Force bases down in this area, Davis-Monthan in Tucson. We've got Fort Huachuca. We need to make sure that they get their funding. Again, this goes back to jobs. Those are good paying jobs, but they're also necessary to keep our country safe.
Mr. Tobin.
Thank you. You know, once again, the problem, with our international policy is there just doesn't seem to be one. Even Jimmy Carter came out and said that the president has been behind in stepping forward to help protect our country. Can you imagine that? Somebody's a little left of Jimmy Carter. The way I look at it is that we were well behind in putting sanctions on Russia, especially looking at their oil, but putting sanctions on Russia when they were invading a NATO ally. That's what we were talking about, crossing that line in sand. Nobody's believing us. We have got to stand together, and we have got to stand with our friends. And if we're not going to stand with our friends, then we might get left out. I meant to say before I ran out of time that national security also is border security. It is very crucial that we make sure that we are able to defend and protect our own borders. A lot of Americans in a lot of places, I'm traveling around our district, they don't believe that's the case. And thank you very much.
And then again to Mr. Tobin. What are your highest priorities for the next term?
Thank you. Well, the highest priority has got to be pride and respect. First thing is the world has got to start learning that America is who we say we are. We grew up in a place where, when America responded always to catastrophes, to hurricanes, to whatever it might be around the country. And my priority is to bring some of that respect back. Secure our nation. Secure our nation and grow an economy. And none of those things are happening. As I travel around rural Arizona and listen to our citizens, they're very nervous. They don't like how their veterans have been treated. They don't like how the uncertainty exists on our coal facilities. They have the uncertainty of the capital coming into rural Arizona makes things harder for us to recover. This recession has gone on way too long. We need to get Washington to get their foot off of our throat so that we can kind of move forward a little bit. And you can't keep putting pressures on our water systems, whether it be through... Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
Ms. Kirkpatrick.
I was born and raised in this district and still live in this district. I was born in the timber town of McNary, up in the White Mountains. My mother's family were Republican ranchers over near Snowflake, and my dad's family were Democratic businessmen. And I always say growing up in a bipartisan household made for very interesting dinner conversation. But I've been able to use that background and experience to get legislation passed and to get results. I have a vision for this district that is building a diversified, strong, stable economy, not just in the district, but throughout Arizona. I saw what happened when the timber industry disappeared and what happened to those families, those middle-class families without any work. And so my priorities are threefold. Number one, create good paying jobs throughout Congressional District 1 and in Arizona. Number two is making sure that our veterans get the benefits that they've earned. And I know we have many veterans here tonight, and I thank you for your service. Number three is getting results, getting things done.
And then for Ms. Kirkpatrick, what can Congress do to make the government more transparent?
Well, Congress, first of all, needs to work together. And as I said, I use my background and experience to reach across the aisle and get things done. And that's the way you legislate, and that's the way you pass good policy. Debate is good. I knew that as a child growing up. You know, that's how you come up with good ideas. But look, folks, at the end of the day, we're all Americans. We're all Arizonans. And we need to find solutions that we can work together on. I have this term passed more bills in a bipartisan manner than any other member of the Arizona delegation. And it's impactful. I mean, that's, again, the way you treat each other courteously, with respect. You listen to ideas, you put your heads together and figure that out. I've been able to do that with my former opponent, Congressman Gosar, and probably many of you know him. He represents a different district now. We're both serving, and we've put our past behind us and said, let's work together on things that are going to improve Arizona.
Mr. Tobin.
Well, to Congresswoman Kirkpatrick's credit, and I do respect her work, but I don't respect her policies. And to her credit, she supports the Obama administration and has made comments saying, you know, I am not going to second guess the president. I am the check and balance. I'm second guessing this president. I'm going to second guess this president on how in the late of night they ran Obamacare through. I'm going to second guess this president on how at the end of the day we have an EPA or an IRS that does what they do. These are the things that are draining our Congress people, because they go back there, and this rift, these fights, are things we don't need to see in the paper. Just today there was another scandal. You can't run by crisis, you have to run by leadership. And right now, there is no leadership. So I will share with you that I will stand there with you, and we will ask those tough questions, and we will find out what it is we can move forward with. When it comes to bipartisanship, there is a list of bipartisan bills that we have passed. 90% of them in the state legislature under my leadership have passed as a bipartisan. Thank you.
For the last question for Mr. Tobin, how do you see the future of health care?
Thank you. I see the future of health care very bright when we take the few good pieces out of Obamacare and put the better pieces out of private sector solutions. And in Arizona, we have some great opportunities especially. I have a sense of this business. But healthcare is being driven by some of the most major components that are driving the costs up. That's where our dollars should go. Not a $1 trillion cut to Medicare reimbursement. That is crushing us. That would be as if we're going to go take Social Security away, which we cannot do. That is a promise. And so is Medicare. Doctors are leaving rural Arizona because of reimbursement rates. We should be very nervous about what services we're going to get as well, not just whether or not we're going to have physicians up there. So I share with you, there are some great opportunities. The best thing that we have is a chance to have pre-existing conditions removed. I've always supported that. I think that's a great place to go. But running a bill in the middle of the night with no Republicans isn't the right way to go.
Ms. Kirkpatrick.
Congressional District 1 is very unique. Not only is it one of the largest congressional districts in the country, it goes from the Utah border all the way down to Duncan, but it also has the largest Native American population, and over 60% of the people in the district are either on some kind of public health care or eligible for public health care. So that includes Indian Health Services, the VA, Medicaid, and Medicare. And so I voted for the Affordable Care Act. I took some hits for that, but it was the right vote for my district. We just got the numbers about enrollment under the, thank you, we just got new numbers about enrollment in the marketplace. 21,000 people now have health insurance who didn't have it before. 76% of them qualified for financial assistance, and their average premium is $113 a month. Under Medicaid, we've expanded the Medicaid coverage to 21,000 more people.
We will proceed to the 2-minute closing statements, first with Mr. Tobin.
Thank you very much. I will share with you my vision and why I decided to run for public office. I have 5 children. I've been married 29 years. Thank you. My father is in the audience with my 2 brothers. My daughter's here. Thank you for coming. He's a retired New York City policeman, and he's a Navy veteran. And we were taught that service was a responsibility of every American. We were taught that community service was something we're supposed to do. And if you remember, we are hurting now. We are watching our greatest generation leaving us, and they're nervous. Look what they did for our nation. But I share with you today that we have a replacement. These children of ours who are fighting wars in places they've never been, with people they've never known, for freedom, deserve a better government than what we are giving them today. Deserves not having an $18 trillion debt on their back. Deserves having leadership who will stand with them when they go to war and pick up arms. And you know this to be true. And you know that this is not happening. This is not the country that my father gave me. This is not the country that our grandparents gave us. This is America, though. And these kids are fighting for freedom somewhere. Their spirit is exactly what our greatest generation's spirit was and is. And will continue to be if we respect them and we give them a chance. So with all the jobs that we're talking about that aren't coming, let's get these people work so they don't have to be on government health care. Let's give people work so they don't have to worry about the government taking care of them, so they can have pride again. And they can feed their own families and buy their own home. That's what America is all about. It's about the dream. And I believe in the dream. And as National President, thank you very much. Thank you all for coming out tonight. And thank you to Congresswoman Kirkpatrick.
I'm ranking member on the Veterans Oversight and Investigation Committee, and veterans work consumes a major part of my time. And I just want to acknowledge some people here tonight. Palmer, who's my VA caseworker, Oscar, who's a volunteer here, but give their lives 24/7 to helping our veterans. And I know there are many veterans here. I've met some of you. I know there are veterans I haven't met. But would you please join me in giving them a round of applause, thanking them for their service. Thank you. My father fought in World War II, and I have the Bible that my grandparents gave him when he was deployed to the Pacific in 1942. And it's dog-eared and it's fragile. I'm sure he read it a lot. But I just want to, again, tell you I've got a special place in my heart for our veterans. And Carl and I were just talking earlier that, you know, we still have a lot of work to do. We still have problems with the claims benefits. Last year, one of my bills, which was meant to streamline that process, was passed into law. It basically requires the Department of Defense to deliver electronic records of medical records directly to the VA claims office. We're keeping an eye on that. That's what oversight and investigation does. That job's not done. We just completed drafting and passing the most comprehensive VA reform bill since 1999. That came out of the investigation at the Phoenix VA. John McCain introduced legislation in the Senate. I introduced it in the House. Out of that, they appointed a conference committee to put our heads together in a bipartisan way and figure out what is best for our veterans. Now, that legislation will improve access to care, but it doesn't deal with a lot of the other issues that our veterans are concerned about. Thank you all very much.
All right, let's have one more round of applause for the candidates for City Hall. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and if the candidates for the high school